This weekend, Saturday the 11th, Mr. Chris Algieri versus Mr. Conor Benn. Now, before I go any further, let me just say this is not really a prediction on the outcome of the fight, but more of an observation and or observations from me. Now, I'm going to start with Mr. Algieri. Let's take a look at his box rec. As you can see, it's not a bad record. He's got 25 victories. He's lost 3 times. Taking a little further, those 3 losses were against very noteworthy fighters. He lost to Mr. Earl Spence Jr. He also lost to Mr. Amir Khan. And he lost to Mr. Manny Pacquiao. What that tells me is Mr. Algieri has some experience within him from these fights and his others. Taking a quick look at Mr. Benn's box rec, as you can see, he has 19 victories and no losses. Noteworthy fighters he's fought so far: Mr. Samuel Vargas and Mr. Adrian Granados. There are times that I categorize a fighter, either he is a prey or he's a predator. I believe Mr. Benn is the predator, and Mr. Algieri will play the role of the prey in this fight. What is a prey? A prey is basically an animal that is hunted and killed by another for food. And the predator is an animal that naturally preys on other animals. Now, I'm not implying by any way that Mr. Algieri will be hunted for food by another animal. But if you understand boxing, the predator is the one that will be coming forward, attempting to eat the opponent. And normally the prey type opponent will be backing up, avoiding, being evasive, because he's not interested in being food. Mr. Benn is a very intense fighter. He's attempting to make a name for himself. He already has a great name. If you understand boxing and know boxing, his father was Nigel Benn. Enough said there. Unlike most fighters that fight after their father was a fighter, that most times, without mentioning names, cannot fill that position correctly, I believe Mr. Benn is on his path to do just that. He's very intense. He's not looking to bob and weave and slip too much. He's looking to eat you for food. Mr. Algieri is a chef, and he also commentates every now and then. So he understands food, I would believe. Now, taking this a little further, I'm a bit curious as to how this whole fight came about. Young, upcoming, strong, aggressive fighter being matched decently experienced, maybe a bit slightly older, not very active as of late boxer. Without picking a side, I do believe this boxing event is tailor-made for the younger Mr. Benn to demonstrate his skills. From the Algieri point of view, I understand taking fights, even if you're ill-prepared or not current, possibility of a great payday, and the possibility of winning. As we know, sometimes the underdog, the Cinderella man, whatever you want to call him, amazes us all. There's a great possibility that Mr. Chris Algieri could still pull something off here, although consensus says no. The timing would be right. If he was able to somehow beat Mr. Benn, Mr. Algieri will have his work cut out for him very greatly. I'm going to give him a slight chance, like I would give any boxer in his situation. Not the puncher's chance, but a slight chance. I believe Mr. Benn will take it to Mr. Algieri to test his heart, to test his age. The young, aggressive predator testing the heart and desire of the slightly older, less relevant prey, Mr. Chris Algieri. This Saturday, December 11th, I do expect fireworks in this fight. Mr. Benn is a crowd pleaser, and like I said, I'm not totally counting Mr. Algieri out. He has some world experience in there. But if you understand the way things are laid, we have the young, strong, upcoming predator type fighter being placed in a cage against the older, maybe slightly more experienced Mr. Chris Algieri.